Christians are no longer safe anywhere.
We now shift our focus to Nigeria, where a woman has been beaten to death and set on fire on college premises.
You shouldn't be doing this.
Your name, sir, please? You guys are tough people. This is wrong. No. Don't take my car. We're fine.
I heard a preacher tell me before, the truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth.
This latest incident, which mainstream media either ignored or gave little to no coverage, proves that.
Over 140 Christians were killed in Nigeria by jihadists over the Christmas holiday, marking another deadly weekend in West Africa as Christians are practically being hunted for sport. And while the world looks the other way, Nigeria was marked the worst country in the world for Christian persecution last year, according to the International Christian Concern.
Meanwhile, the United States government deliberately took Nigeria off the list of countries of particular concern, which is a designation by the United States Secretary of State of a country that is known to violate religious freedom flagrantly.
With reactions trailing the United States' decision to remove Nigeria from the list of countries blacklisted for engaging in violation of religious freedom. Well, in a statement issued on Wednesday, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced 10 countries of particular concern, including Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia, among others, for having engaged in or tolerated systematic and egregious violations of religious freedom. Well, in December 2020, the U.S. had listed Nigeria among the countries blacklisted, a position Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, described as a case of honest disagreement between the two nations on the causes of violence in Nigeria. Well, let's take some reactions. Jonathan posed a question to U.S. President Joe Biden and the United States Embassy in Nigeria, asking, what is the criteria for removing Nigeria from the list when Christians are killed daily across Nigeria, especially in Kaduna? Well, I think someone has been compromised.
Absolutely. Why should Nigeria be removed from the list when hundreds of lives were lost during Christmas by the group that hates Christians?
Overall, I think 12 of the recommendations for countries of particular concern that Yusuf recommended, the State Department has also accepted those recommendations, but on some key ones, such as India and Nigeria, they did not. And that gives us great concern, particularly when it comes to Nigeria, with, as you said at the top of this piece, with over 200 people killed in Nigeria in and around Christmas, including a minister and his entire family in Plateau State. Plus the many other religious killings and the religious violence that has gone on in Nigeria over the years. And we believe that the State Department made a huge mistake in it this year, as it did last year, by not designating Nigeria a country of particular concern.
The U.S. government cares less about protecting Christians than it does about other groups. When people attack or speak out against Muslims, they are called this. When people attack or speak out against Jews, they're called this. When someone says anything people in the alphabet community don't like, they're called this. But what do you call people who hate and attack Christians? Why is that? This is a battle between light and darkness. Satan knows who he hates, Jesus Christ, and he's going after those who believe in him.
So from my understanding of the stats, a Christian is killed every 2 hours in Nigeria. It's astounding. Why don't you just tell us what is going on? Why are Christians being hunted down and killed and kidnapped and their churches burned in Nigeria specifically?
Well, first of all, it depends on who you ask. If you ask the Christian community in Nigeria, and this is the largest country in Africa, the biggest economy in Africa, a democracy nonetheless, that's basically 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. And every single Christian in the country will tell you they're being targeted because they're Christians.
Right.
And the unmentionable things are happening to women. Children are being killed in grotesque ways. Every church they can find is being burned down. Whole villages being burned down. it is basically 100 times worse than anything you've seen. In fact, the 140 people that were killed over Christmas, since that happened, over the last week, another 4 villages have been annihilated entirely. So if you ask the Christians, they say we're being targeted because we're Christians. They want to ethnically, religiously cleanse us. If you ask the Department of State, they're going to say this has nothing to do with religion. In fact, just this last week, the Department of State reversed yet again a Trump administration decision to designate Nigeria as one of the world's foremost persecutors of religious people, of Christians, because they believe the reason why this is happening is, wait for it, climate change.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that in the AP. My colleague Pete Hegseth showed me the article where the AP said this is happening because of climate change. It's absolutely astounding, first of all, that the Trump administration first designated Nigeria, rightfully so. They called it the worst violator, Nigeria, the worst violator of religious freedom in the world. And just as 140 Christians were massacred over Christmas, and we know 52,000 in Africa since 2009 have been killed, now the Biden administration just this month decides to reverse that, and now the media and the State Department are saying it's climate change.
It is mind-blowing that the American government and several mainstream media are blaming climate change for terrorist groups attacking Christians in Nigeria. How low can they go? Politics aside, people who are losing their lives and homes are humans, and we should acknowledge that and not blame climate change.
Our government is being blind to this, the media is too, but there aren't enough Catholic and Christian leaders like yourself out there bringing attention to it. We really thank you for doing that, and we hope others will continue to speak for the plight of those Christians in Africa.
This news reporter makes a valid point. If our religious leaders, especially those within the evangelical community, would speak out against the attacks on Christians just as they speak out in support of Israel, things may not be this bad in Nigeria. These religious leaders influence our political leaders in many ways. Our Republican leaders pushed for over $14 billion in aid to Israel. While Americans have different views about taxpayers' money funding wars in foreign countries, if our leaders would push for a fraction of that amount to help defeat the enemies of the gospel of Jesus Christ, more Christian lives would be saved. In 2022, Deborah Emmanuel Yakubu, a 25-year-old Christian college student from Nigeria, was stoned for saying Jesus by her classmates, who claimed she said something blasphemous against Muhammad. She was subsequently set on fire.
What was her crime? Blasphemy. Her classmates accused her of insulting Prophet Muhammad, and so they killed her. This incident has shocked the world, but in Nigeria, killing in the name of blasphemy has been taking place for far too long, especially in the country's north.
This is what many Christians in Nigeria experience daily. We may have a small voice, but we will continue to make you aware of the injustice Christians in Nigeria are facing. Let's pray for our brothers and sisters in Nigeria, but also let's create more awareness about the persecution and suffering of Christians. Please help us spread biblical truth. Subscribe, like, and share. God bless you.